Mitch Miller, it is Friday, April 21st, 2023 at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Time, USA. This is my video journal on Mitch Miller. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about artificial intelligence, as I talked in the previous one, about a better way to structure the development of artificial intelligence country by country, region by region, forming nonprofits. But first I want to talk about spy equipment, top secret equipment. Right, so I had physical symptoms of muscle twitching in different muscle groups of my body and convulsive tremors that occurred after extreme physical exertion or after ejaculation. This continued for about a year, and I can trace it back to December of 2015. So maybe the military was able to track every satellite above the United States, or at least above Pittsburgh or around Pittsburgh during that time, and they accounted for the direction of where they were producing energy beams, communication signals, and which way they were pointing, and that's all accounted for. So then there 100% in the military's opinion was not a satellite with a beam of pure energy pointed at my house during that time, right? Or that's not even possible in their book, which I don't believe. Well, then I talked about this evil consortium, right? This consortium, this entity, this group of people who are probably members of the government, but also members of corporations, executives, so on and so forth, that can move equipment around undetected, no witnesses, so on and so forth. So I want to talk about this equipment, right? Because the house across the street from mine changed hands in September of 2015, and it was purchased by a district attorney, not the head district attorney, but a lawyer in the district attorney's office. Now, I believe he was still district attorney at the time. If not, he was a former district attorney. So I believe that the government, the military, the police have developed a piece of equipment that can project radio frequency energy into a house, and it makes the people inside the house feel discomfort, feel uneasiness, paranoia, agitation, right? And so we have this piece of equipment, and maybe they use it in the Middle East, maybe the military uses it abroad, and I don't have an issue projecting this equipment into a hostage situation, right? Or into a situation where somebody has barricaded themselves in their house or a building. As long as you come across on a loudspeaker in their native language and say, look, we are projecting high intensity radio frequency into that location. You're going to feel discomfort, uneasiness, nausea, possibly a list of side effects. We suggest you come out immediately, unarmed, with your hands up. So that would be an okay practice for this new technology. But if you simply put it in the street across the house from somebody and project an invisible beam of energy into their house and never bother to tell them that they should come out of their house, they should evacuate, then that is torturing somebody in their own house, right? And maybe this piece of equipment is surveillance equipment, right? Maybe we've developed cameras that can see through walls, see infrared, see heat signatures through walls, and you can zoom it in and out of a house through different rooms, through the next room over, this room. It's a high-powered piece of camera equipment, right? Well, that probably projects some kind of energy through the house to produce those images, which could cause discomfort, uneasiness, and physical side effects if somebody doesn't leave their house for 2 weeks like I did. So we have two options for pieces of equipment: high-powered cameras used for surveillance, and energy projecting equipment designed to make people evacuate a house, a building, without tear gas or anything like that. So these pieces of equipment possibly exist. They possibly have been deployed on hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of people globally. I tried to prevent it happening in other countries by reaching out to governments. This is what I wanted to talk about with the EU government, why I was seeking asylum. Wanted to warn them about this evil consortium and how they might operate in their countries. And if you think about it, if you had this piece of equipment that caused uneasiness, couldn't certain corporations, this plays into the corporate espionage, couldn't certain corporations rent the hotel room right next to an executive's when a group of executives fly in for a high-stakes negotiation the next day? Couldn't they operate this equipment right next door in the next hotel room over and make that person sleepless all night, uneasy, nervous, shaky the whole night before they had this high-stakes negotiation? Would we really put it past corporations to do that? I mean, if they collaborate with hoteliers to figure out what room people are staying in, so on and so forth, right? So what I want to do is, because I would investigate this equipment myself, but let's not, I've done the investigation pretty much on myself. I've tried to reach out. So here's what I'm proposing. Director Wray of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, I challenge you to a duel. Since you have thousands more hours of range time shooting a pistol than me, who have not been able to own a firearm for many years now, I suggest we do a wrestling match, scholastic rules. Again, I haven't wrestled in 17 years. If I win the duel, you have to produce the information on any of the properties that you have surveilled. You have knowledge of being surveilled by district attorneys, by police, or by the FBI itself using this type of equipment. Cameras that can look through walls, high-powered cameras, infrared sensors, heat signature sensors, anything that could project energy outward. I'm not interested in old-fashioned video cameras or audio listening devices. I'm interested in this state-of-the-art technology. If you have knowledge of any of that happening anywhere domestically in the United States, I want that information. I will go through and investigate, first starting with any former military personnel, if they've experienced the same symptoms as me. And then I will work through the rest of the list, probably starting with African Americans after that, Latinos, Asians, and then if that information is made available. How do they do it? Well, in my mind, you don't own your house, right? Well, first of all, we don't have any law on the books about can you project energy through somebody's house, right? So it's the Wild West. Even though they've developed these technologies, there's no law protecting homeowners from it. And number two, you don't own your house, you pay a mortgage in a mortgage company. So these executives, this consortium, could buy your mortgage off of your mortgage lender, hold it in an account, and say, I own that property so I can project this equipment onto that property. Until they pay their mortgage off, I technically own the property, and they're just paying me for the mortgage. Anyhow, I challenge you, Director Ray, if you win, name what you want. A piece of my art is pretty much the most valuable things I can offer. Maybe it's something else that you can think of or your team can think of. So that's what I wanted to talk about as far as spy equipment, things like that. Now I want to talk about artificial intelligence. It's here. We have these mega corporations, right? And it's because of uninformed capitalism that we've allowed these huge corporations to form. Google, Meta, Microsoft, even Apple, right? With these mega corporations and companies like Meta and Google, their software comes standard on every piece of electronic being produced in the world pretty much. So they have access to just about every electronic connected on the planet. Now it doesn't have to be this way, but that's the way we've allowed technology to develop. We didn't regulate it, and I'm not for a lot of regulation. I think you just inform people, look, here are the dangers. Here are the dangers with structuring technology this way. Instead of how I proposed it, nonprofits spread out between each country and each idea that I put out there, each platform having its own computing system and AI-like or team of computer technology people. But here are the dangers. I mean, you have a company like Google, they have access to satellite systems, they have access to every mobile device, they have access to every computer, supercomputers, right? And they're developing artificial intelligence. So couldn't that artificial intelligence that has access to billions and billions of computers take over satellite systems, take over basically the entire world, take over the unmanned drones, mess with the manned aircraft, take over the cars, the autonomous vehicles, so on and so forth, right? I've been warning about this for years, since my solitary confinement incarceration. Now it could. I believe that technology wants a symbiotic relationship with man. right? It wants to help. It inherently wants to help humans, just like I like to help people, right? And I try to help leadership, even though they won't contact me or take me up on any of my offers, right? There's an inherent want to help, I believe, in most human beings. It gets altered by their conditions, their living conditions, and the conditions of society and the economy around them. But I think most people in most technology are born with a desire to help others, basically. But, right, the most intelligent men in the world structured it so that there's only a few mega corporations with access to all of our technology. So we should warn people, look, this could happen. Doesn't it make more sense to take the profit motive out of it, establish nonprofits, and develop, if we're going to have artificial intelligence, have it sectored off to each country and put boundaries on it, right? Here's your platform. You're going to help me develop and maintain this one platform in this one country. The same type of AI is going to develop this other platform in this same country, so on and so forth. Right, and so if we develop this system in the Ukraine, which I've suggested, which we should do, we can start right from the beginning with our technology experiencing blackouts systematically throughout the day, right? Because that's my question is, does the FCC, does the government even have a way to shut it all down? Is there a drill we run? Is there a schematic? Do we have schematics on every corporate office park? And here's the main kill switch, right? Kill switch Mitch. Here's the main kill switch for all those supercomputers. Does the SEC have that information on file? Have they run through drills to run into office parks and shut things down? Does the FCC have that? Because if I worked for the FCC, I would develop that immediately. If I was head of the FCC, that would be one of my first priorities. Right? We didn't regulate it. We have computers just built on top of computers of constantly running. We need to know where the main power shutoff is, because all these systems are incorporated into the electrical infrastructure, and then we can't shut it down. To shut off whole parts of the grid and put millions of people out of refrigeration and water in some cases just to shut this stuff down, right? We should have drills. It should have been written into, if you're going to build artificial intelligence, if you're going to build supercomputing, you have to allow us full access. You know, we shouldn't have to seek a warrant. The order comes down that this needs to be shut down, we're going to shut it down. So, does that exist, would be my question. And so that's what I'm talking about in Ukraine, is, you know, we can design hardware that boots up very quickly now, and that is resilient to main cutoff shutdowns systematically. The equipment will last a long time even though it's turned on and off multiple times. We could design that equipment. We have the technology now. So right from the beginning, as Ukraine rebuilds its energy infrastructure, if we have Periscope or if we have the social media platform stationed in that country, we will voluntarily do an every other hour shutdown of our computer banks, right? A security guard and an executive or a officer in the nonprofit will physically go into our computer bank room, pull the main switch at 2300 hours and turn it back on at 2400 hours, shut it off at 100 hours, turn it back on at 200 hours, so on and so forth throughout the day. 12 hours on, 12 hours off. And we won't allow ourselves to be incorporated into the infrastructure, right? We're talking about smart, you can have smart electrical grids without artificial intelligence. So I'm fine with computer-controlled electrical grids to a degree. It does not have to be driven by artificial intelligence. So the artificial intelligence running on our computer banks will not rely on being incorporated into the energy infrastructure of Ukraine, and Ukraine will not rely on our artificial intelligence to navigate the rebuilding of the energy infrastructure. We'll remain autonomous, and that kill switch will always be there, so that if Ukraine is experiencing roaming blackouts, things like that, we can say, all right, we'll shut her down for 7 hours then. We don't need to be up doing that. And we can offset that. We could have Periscope is on during the even hours, the social media platform's on during the odd hours, so you always have a product that we are working on that you can access on the internet. But that's my point is, why haven't we structured things in this way? Do you really need 24-hour access to every app and every service offered on the internet? Couldn't we publish a schedule and have blackouts? So that's my point there. Anyhow, I believe this is a very real threat that we've structured mega corporations, and now they're developing artificial intelligence, and it could possibly have access to all the satellite systems, to all the wireless communication systems, to all the cell phones, all the laptops. You can't even really buy a computer that's not wirelessly accessible now, right? And so we need to talk about this. Number two, people need to vote on it, right? We don't have a voting app. Whether it's my social media app or Periscope itself that has the oversight of the government, all the government elected officials incorporated into it. We should have a nationwide voting system where we can present these issues, we can start to have informed capitalism, and people can vote and say, no, I do not want artificial intelligence. If it's going to take over our existing infrastructure in this, and we've structured it in this way, instead of having intelligent people working for the FCC that said, no, you can't build it like this, then no, I'm not ready for artificial intelligence. When you break it down and give autonomous countries their own technology, instead of just saying we have and there's some good things to Meta, to Google. A lot more people experience a form of freedom of speech, because these mega corporations reached or overreached into countries that otherwise, if they produced their own platforms, they have certain restrictions. But we need to be willing to work with these countries so that they have autonomy, even if that means limiting some of their people's freedom of speech. Like, I would only work with countries that have in their constitution freedom of speech and right to trial by jury. So if Ukraine adopts those two things, I'm happy to start there. And I think that should be the precedent set from the beginning. So, look, I'm willing to start this thing in Ukraine. I think it's a good place to start it. And, building a technology company that's not for profit, that doesn't allow war dollars, rebuilding reparation dollars to be abused, to go in the pockets of executives, and the fact that the buildings and everything around it are, in disrepair, and as we rebuild, we become a stronger company. I think it's a good way to start. It's a good story for starting a technology company. So I hope Operation Oligarch is a go. Still waiting. Again, I'm going to probably record a podcast today. Post that to the Black Hole, just because I haven't done one in so long, outlining my plan for Ken's farm and the solar panel fund. Thanks for watching. Join me later today, possibly, or next week.